All right. So welcome everyone to 2024. You know what? This is Late Night with Canada's Restaurant Guy and Dominic. You know what? We are thrilled, I guess is the word I'm thinking about. I'm trying to turn all this stuff down. There we go. Hey, Dominic, welcome to this crazy show we have. Late Night.
Hey. Hi. Thanks.
We're open late. We're open late, as it says.
Open late, yeah, for sure.
We're open late. I love it. This is the first time we are on Instagram. So if you are watching us today on Instagram, this is our first time. So I don't know. I don't even know what it looks like on Instagram. Do you know?
No.
I'm kind of geeking out on what this looks like over there. I don't have any notifications, so maybe we're live on someone else's. But it says we're on Instagram, so maybe we are. And that's really cool. So anyways, I know we are live on LinkedIn, which is kind of cool as well. LinkedIn Live. So people that are going to be joining us over on LinkedIn, I do and can respond to our comments. So Dominic and myself are going to talk a lot about 2024. What would you do if I owned a restaurant? Dominic, you probably skill. Do you cringe when you think about that a little?
Well, I think it's exciting. It'd be cool. I come from food service, like you. For me, it was bakery and grocery. At Costco and Superstore, Loblaws, and then our family business. But I think it'd be cool. But it's a lot of hard work, right? So,
it's a huge amount of work.
Stage of my life, I'm not interested in doing it. But I
prefer 20 years young.
I prefer to go and eat at those places and and test and taste all the different cool things that are happening over working it. But for a lot of people, it's a very cool and exciting things, and it can be very rewarding. So that's the cool thing about this business, right? There's lots of opportunity. As much as there's a shit ton of competition, there's tons of opportunity, and especially with people being open-minded to diverse food, diverse cultures. So it's the world's your oyster, I guess, right?
So let's play a little bit with this then. Let's look at, this is our late night show. So we kind of sit back and enjoy, listen to us jibber jabber. I don't know if we can say that.
You can say
podcast.
That.
This is not a podcast, by the way.
It's not a podcast.
Not a podcast. Right. It may look like one.
No,
I like your advertising behind you.
Yeah, I can blur that out. You could.
No. Do you want to take this moment? Because today's non-podcast is brought to you by Canada Food Safety Group, aka Dominic.
And the other good people that work here, not just me.
Exactly. So let's get into this. So if you own a restaurant, okay, I got a lot of stuff here to talk about because so at this time in the year, I don't know if you know this, Dominic, this time of the year in the industry, especially with all these people out there that wants to help the industry, we get this like mad rush of people telling us what 2024 is going to be like. And it's never right. No. They like never get the mark. It's always off a little, and that's okay. We love them for the effort. It's always off. But I want to talk a little bit about, I was thinking like months. I got a calendar above me here that I look up at every day, and I look at it and I'm thinking January right now. And I'm like, what would I do in January if I owned a restaurant? I don't know if it's as quiet as maybe we thought it was going to be in January, because I'm seeing a lot of restaurants still see some good numbers. What would you think you would do, Dominic, in January?
I guess depends on what you're offering as far as food service, but I would promote heavily. I would go hard. I would do podcasts with guys, or LinkedIn Live, or Instagram, Facebook. I would go hard at all that in trying to attract customers and offering value, because people are they're strapped from Christmas and the holidays, and some people slow down. Like I know in my entire career in our family business at Costco, at Loblaws, at Superstore, January was typically like your slowest month. So. Yeah. If you can,
but it doesn't have to be, because
no, exactly,
right. Like I think that's where we always fall into and say, yeah, well,
specials happen, right? So And I think it might be a good time to test new things.
Yeah. I think it's also a good time to build some loyalty, to refigure things, because when it's busy, we don't really tend to get to do a lot of those things, right?
Mhm.
Like looking at your menu, your marketing plan. There is so many. I hate this word, but I'm going to say it. Verticals in a business. I tend to use it too much, but we tend to look at all these different things at this time. But we should be having your marketing plan stretched out for the year. Like it
Mhm.
could be done. And I've worked with some large, like some of the biggest brands out there in the industry. And would you believe they typically have a 3-year marketing plan set?
I do believe it.
You do believe it, right?
Well, just for our little company, we try
Yeah.
and do 6 and 12 months, and that's hard. But yeah, a big company, they have to because their supply chain, right? If they got hundreds or thousands of locations, that's a lot of things to put into play and have in place to do a launch, a regional, even just a regional launch would be massive and hard.
Mhm.
So
It is.
an independent restaurant could. I know you were talking about it back in the fall, right? To think about January and February, and now's the time. Now's the time. Now's the time. You said it many times. This is the time to start thinking about this stuff. So, but it's not too late either, right? I think.
No. And most restaurateurs are going to take this and go, yeah, I know it anyways. Don't worry.
Yeah.
And that's fine. But I think 2024, what we're looking at, there's a lot of additional challenges that they have addressed that are coming forth. We know that serve payments are being asked to be repaid on the 18th of January. A lot of businesses are going to have that challenge, maybe. We have a lot of other businesses that are really going to go through a lot of things that they need to work on to really build their brand stronger and more, just make it through. And I think that we need to look at all these things and have a plan. That's it. I used to say, I don't care if it's on a napkin. I don't care if it's on a napkin.
Yeah.
Just plan it out. Just talk amongst your team and go, here's what we need to do. We need to work on this. Here's our marketing plan. Here's what we're going to do. It's going to adjust because typically 99% of the plan is always going to change by the time you get to it. Things happen, disasters, which I would also put that as a vertical. You need to have your plan we talked about that before, Domenic.
Yeah.
You have to have your natural disaster plan set up. You don't have to use it. That's a blessing, but it's pretty dry out there still with a little bit of snow that we've gotten out in the west here. It could be a really interesting year ahead of us when it comes to fires or floods or it's always a natural disaster nowadays, right? So we need to have that planned out. You need your vertical. You need your tech stack. What's your tech look like this year, right? We're seeing some changes in the third-party delivery. We're seeing some really adjustments over there. Have you reviewed your third-party delivery? Have you worked on a program with those companies like DoorDash or Skip the Dishes or Uber Eats?
Are they are they being a little more flexible, Jay? Would you say?
Not that I've heard.
No, okay.
You think they would, right?
I would hope, yeah. Well, yeah. I've read and heard a lot of pushback, so I think I don't. They're Monty said it, like they're a necessary evil. Is there a way of doing direct to the customer? Right? Is there a way of
absolutely there is
for pickups?
Yeah.
And back to the social media and all the different ways that this might be the time to test that out. And like you say, if you can build loyalty,
100%.
Rather than giving the delivery companies 30% or 25%, give it directly to the customer if they pick it up.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that a few times. You get a discount if you go there. All these things. I think we have to look at all these avenues. It's just there's too many options, and maybe that's why they're not being as flexible. And in that, I could be wrong. Maybe they are, but I'm just not hearing it. I'm hearing also more and more people are. It's not like it was through COVID. We know that, and more and more people are just, I'll drive and get it, or I will pay it. It's okay, right? Like people are adjusting to that, but it was. I think the thing is that we liked it so much because it was an avenue. It was a side as really good growth for us during COVID. A little bit after was good. It was a great way to increase our delivery. But at the end of it, unless you're a delivery company, you should be really focusing on foot traffic, in my mind, in your business and getting people in that door. Big topic right now is loyalty programs. Loyalty programs everywhere. I'm seeing them up on Instagram. I'm seeing them on TikTok, everywhere, LinkedIn. People are talking about loyalty programs and the need for people to consider them for their restaurants. Right? Have you ever? Do you belong to a couple loyalty programs, Domenic?
I do. I think one. It's hard because I understand. The need for them. I understand. I don't do many restaurants directly as a loyalty program. I tend to use Open Table to do bookings, but we went to a restaurant on Saturday that wasn't on there that I frequent a lot, and I'm okay to call them. And they don't have a formal loyalty program, but their loyalty program is if you're if they see you in there, they're going to buy you dessert. They buy you a drink at the end. And they've done that. I thought just me, I was so special, but no, they do that. I see them do that at many, many tables to say, thanks for coming. We're happy to have you here. So I think there's many ways to look at what the loyalty program is, right?
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, it is for sure. Well, that's kind of old school, right? Just it's like the same customer comes to you 5-6 times a year. Especially if it's a family business, they know who you are. Of course they do. Even the servers know you, right? So that's the reason you go back, by the way, too, right? You go back because even if the food's not great, you go back because you're welcome to be there. And
those are huge.
100%. So yeah, I'm for sort of recognizing your customers in some sort of way. And it doesn't have to be a formal loyalty program, but now's the time with tech. I think restaurants need to do a better job of, the chains do it, of gathering that info and connecting with the customer if they want to be connected with, right? That's important because some people don't want to, no, I'm not going to give you my email, or I don't want you texting me and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of people are open to it.
Yeah. The other thing I think a lot of people are, I wouldn't say they're expecting it, but I think there's ways to, like, it's almost you're part of a community, right? It's their simple way of community involvement. I think this Lauren Fitzgerald from Full Count mentioned this in her comment, I think yesterday on loyalty programs I read, and incredible. Her perspective on everything in the industry is incredible, one of the best. Anyway, she talked a lot about that loyalty. And just really, I think we're going to see a lot of people reinventing it. Mm-hmm. And really, I think you're going to see them maybe doing some old school practices, but I think we're going to also see ways to incorporate sustainability practices into it, right? Or sharing different things that you can do within that loyalty program that gives back to maybe sustainable practices, or, you buy so many coffees, you get to plant a tree this year for you, right? Like, I think there's ways to also use it to really give back to those notes and what those generations that are coming into the restaurant feel like. You could go to them and say, every 10 coffees you get, we're going to plant a tree this summer for you. Now, it's different than getting a free coffee, but you feel like you're giving back something that's bigger than a coffee, right? And those programs like that are so inexpensive to operate from a perspective, right? Like, or you're giving back so much and you're part of this community, and you give back to food banks, or, you buy one, get one free. I see that a lot.
Yeah, the meal share ones, the restaurants that do that, they'll.
Yeah. Are those like, I just love those things. And I think we're going to see more and more ways of loyalty programs driving engagement, customer experience almost to a degree. Well, they are.
Yeah. I think the restaurants got to probably do a lot of the ones where I think it's very small and
yeah.
They maybe don't want to brag about it either, right? I think there's that, like, we don't want to be too loud about it because it's like we're tooting our own horn. But I think restaurants got to maybe just say a little bit more about what they're doing, because a lot of people don't know.
Yeah, and that's a good call out. And I think more and more people need to talk about those things in their restaurants, because guess who is? Those corporate chains are, those places out there with multi locations. They're not scared to do those things that they're doing and share them. I think a lot of independents maybe have that feeling too that they don't.
I'm like that. I was like, you know what? No,
You give a ton. You give a ton.
Well, we don't necessarily want the recognition, right? We just want to know that we're helping somehow. That's kind of our reward. Is, people will know. They'll just know because we help them. And if it's just 4 or 5 people, that's okay. If it's 400 or 500, that's okay too, right? Yeah. But we don't necessarily. It shouldn't be about us. So I think a lot of small businesses tend to be like that, right? They're and we talk about this all the time. They need to be sort of singing their own song here and preaching and putting out that message a little louder to the community because people are open to it. But it's that fine line of time, right? Time as well. So now we have less staff. So the owners and managers are even under more pressure in these months. So it's if there's a way to do it, this is a time to invest in getting your song out there and getting your voice out there. I think because the community they're getting inundated with other stuff, but food is the place to bring people together. So if there was a promo from that restaurant that I go often to, or even when I was there in December, hey, you told me to come back in January, that would have been a really good time to say, hey, come back. And if you're gonna skip the dishes, I'm gonna give you 25% off or something, right? At least I'm gonna have that planted in my mind that I'm gonna go back.
Yeah, and I think you're gonna see more and more of that. Mm-hmm. And I also want to talk. So loyalty programs. I'd introduce one right away. I'd be doing that now.
Yeah.
If you haven't planned it, I'd be working on that right now and getting that going because it does take some time. And there's ways to leverage different programs you may have with different companies out there that you can actually maybe offset the cost of some of these things. But I would definitely get on that now because you're going to be competing with loyalty programs that are already in motion that maybe started prior to the holidays and is capitalizing a little bit after the holidays on that. And I think that's going to be quite important as well. So loyalty programs, marketing, you talked a little bit about doing things like this. Let's tell the viewers how hard this is. Because you do a lot. We do a lot of these together, me and you.
Yeah, it's hard, but I think, when I first started talking to you about doing our outreach and our shows, I reached out to somebody who knew what the hell they were doing. I don't know. What the hell did I know? But the reality of that is you were also at that point and you learned it. And it wasn't as much as it's kind of a steep kind of learning curve. There's lots of tools out there to get you started. And it doesn't have to be fancy. And the more authentic it is, I think the better. If you're honest with your customers, they're going to connect with that. The vast majority are probably on the same page as you. So it's if you can get out there and connect with them and they can connect, it would be awesome.
Now, did you see the Coke commercial?
No.
You haven't seen the Coke commercial? Okay. Oh my God. So let me bring it up here because you got to see the Coke commercial because I want people, because you nailed it. I think the biggest trend you're going to see in the marketing space in our industry or not, still trying to get my groove in 2014, is that I think I always said this, and I've said this to you 1,000 times, is authentic marketing is going to be big. Okay. Yeah. Now, I know Coke. I don't know them very well, but they have a new commercial, new ad out for 2024. I want to show you a little bit of it here. Okay. Because I tell you, Dominic, it was like I wrote it. It's so good. So good commercial. One of my favorite so far. So I'm just going to go through here. I'm going to bring it up on my screen. That's the cool stuff we can do here. Okay. Extra camera, share screen. Here we go. Okay. Just give me a second. I'm going to pull up a different screen. Here we go. Okay. Can you see this?
It's coming up there. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to blow it up a little bit here. Okay. I'm going to turn the sound on. I'm going to turn our sound off. So people that are going to watch this later or whatever, go check out the new guy. It's called From Coke. I think it's one of the best commercials I've seen in a long time, and I just love it. I absolutely love it. I adore it. She's a goodie. So I just pull this music down. We'll get into it here. You got to hear this. Okay, so pure authentic content marketing is big, and that means let's not edit as much. Let's tell a story as well through that content field, but let's not edit it. So we believe in the content, okay? So you'll be able to pick up some of the things that maybe they could do differently that you'll see, Dominic. I know you will. So here we go. All right, so.
You'll be fine.
Right.
They're going to let you.
Cool.
Oh, get in here. Get in here.
Oh,
You must be freezing.
You say I was short?
He's at the most passing yards.
How many rings?
In the highest
Zero.
QPR.
Bro,
It's
back
always
me up
the
here,
same.
Stretch. What's up? What are you? 6'2"? Yeah, me too. You think so? Absolutely. Want to do a driver's license?
Dude, how's it going so far? I know how hard it is to be the new guy.
Oh, it's been great. You guys are like, what happened?
Zach, how long have you been here? And you
Pretty
haven't
good,
said hi to Dad yet?
Oh, yeah. Actually, I was gonna hit.
When you shake his hand, really firm grip, but not so much that thinks you're trying to claim alpha status.
No.
Oh, is that a bad
Not there.
spot?
Not
Sorry.
the bad
Oh,
spot. I love that, though.
Of course.
You're not short.
I'm not. Is there a story that's sort of circular? Or-
Why you make so much food? Because I don't want them to.
Back, baby.
Can I have a juice?
For Pete's sake, Bob.
Sir, so great to finally meet you.
Hey, Zach, likewise. Good shake.
Thank you.
Get out.
Come on, sit.
There you go.
Just sit like that.
Oh, I am sorry. I'm very sorry.
New
You'll be fine.
Right.
They're going to let you.
Very cool. Yeah, the only thing I noticed really that I think was out of place is that the Honest Tea juice boxes were all perfectly lined up. Other than that, I think it was cool.
But you see that the authenticness of the storytelling's huge.
Mhm.
How many people have viewed that thing has been like enormous, right? So 4.2, almost 5 million, 4.5 million people have seen that in 6 days.
On YouTube.
Yeah.
Never mind, it's probably airing on network television and stuff as well, or no?
I think it is, but it's probably bigger on YouTube too, to be honest. Those
Yeah.
are probably bigger numbers. But it's a great way to tell a story. It's obviously they're edited because it's Coke and they have the money to do that. But you could do a lot of that. Like they tried to get that social media kind of style storytelling. It's so different than people could do with their phones with reels on IG or Facebook. It's really simple. It's cut, little chunks, little stories. It's funny, right? Like it's edutaining in a sense, right? Product placement is probably Coke executives saying, "Gotta have that Coke bottle in there."
Yeah.
You know, and that I get that. That's okay. That's cute. But what a great way to as an example for restaurants to say, I could do that. I could tell a story, right? It could be the pizza delivery guy. It could be a story. It could be about the brand. It could be so much.
And I think restaurants should ask their staff if they're afraid, right? Engage with the staff and ask them, "Hey, has anybody done any of this stuff?"
Yeah.
I'm sure somebody would be thrilled to do it, right?
100%.
So,
Right?
and
100%.
then it's going to be even more authentic, right? Because then it's really, somebody, and it's not necessarily you telling the story, and that might be a good thing, right? That might be cool because you're going to see it from another perspective. So it's, obviously you're gonna make sure it's appropriate, but I think that's the cool thing about the tech that's available to us now is it can be out there instantly. You could be doing multiples per day, and if eventually you have enough people watching, you could also do a lot of help, right? You could help yourself,
Yeah.
but you help the community. You can get the word out on things that are important to you and the community. So I think there's lots of power there that we haven't quite harnessed yet. Some people are doing a great job of it, obviously, right? But the whole, start taking advantage of the tech that's available to us. I think a lot of restaurants haven't done it yet. There's a lot of opportunity to help you through these slow months too, right?
Yeah, and I think we're going to see more and more of that come out. I just think it's really just gives people an opportunity to say, you know what, I can do that.
Yeah,
I think more and more you're going to see this. It's almost like you're going to see like a rebirth in a sense to the marketing world that allows. I called it imperfection is perfection in 2024. I think that's where we're going to see that more and more. Is where people are going to allow for those mistakes, and that's going to be a part of the brand, and a part of the building of it. And I think that's important. I think it's important. We've gone too perfected on things being so perfect that we don't believe in it.
Yeah.
And I think when you look at the marketing world, you want to everything you say and do. Really, you want your viewership to believe in it. I think that's the key, and get what you're saying across, obviously. But obviously get it across so they believe in what you're saying. It's very cool. It's very cool. So marketing, food, safety. Let's talk to you're kind of in the safety world a little. Let's talk a little about safety. How we're hearing safety pop up everywhere, Domenic, everywhere. Every week I'm texting you.
Yeah, I know. It's the unfortunate part of what's going on in the world, and it's been forever, is that it's ongoing. It's always happening, right? There's always a recall. There's always somebody making a mistake. I was thinking this past week about having a non-scary safety message to say, hey, this safe meal was brought to you by somebody that's been trained. Because the reality of that is in the food service world, 99.9% of meals are safe. Everybody does a really good job. Like the restaurants do a good job. It's hard, right? They train their staff. They work with their staff. They send them to training. We're seeing a big uptick in training, thankfully for our business. I think a lot of restaurants are seeing that. I attribute our uptick in business is our value proposition, is that we're offering value, right? So people are looking to save money everywhere because the CERB payments are coming up, the taxes are going up. I don't know if you heard in Calgary, the city of Calgary is talking about a 27% increase in property taxes for hotels. 27, and that's their lower proposed rate, which restaurants are freaking like. What the? Like,
are you kidding me?
Oh yeah. Well, that's what I mean. Like this, so every food service operator has to look to save money everywhere. It can't just be in one. It can't just be in food. It can't be on staff. It can't just be in training. It has to be everywhere across the board. It has to be on marketing. So now this sort of guerrilla marketing or the do your own marketing, you have to put that into play. You have to absolutely put it into play, and you have to get your message out in. And me and you talk about this a lot in every way possible. You absolutely have to do it in multiple ways, because just the flyers, or the door hangers, or the mail outs or whatever, all that old school stuff. Maybe you still have to do it for certain businesses, but probably you should be looking at every other thing except for that. Right?
Well, I was going to say everything. I think social.
Exactly.
Social. So spend your time, do your work, find the people. What I'm going to do, Domenic, is I think next time we're going to talk on the late night show. I wrote it down here, so it's going to my bed. Is that being creative? Because that is the key. It's not like that Coke commercial that we saw. That's pretty creative. Like it's innovative, creative. It's simple. It's all those things. And I think a lot of people struggle. It comes naturally for me. Trust me, some days I wish I wasn't innovative and creative all the time, because it's starting to haunt me now. It's all the time. I'm thinking about, I could do it this way. But that's because I come from the art world. But when I look at these a lot of people have a challenge on that. When you said that, I was like, oh yeah, you know, I've got to do maybe a class on how to be creative.
Well, but that's why I said engage your staff. I don't think I'm that creative. I think I kind of think
you're getting though. Look at that sign.
But like I'm not, you know, I'm my own worst critic, I guess, right? So, the good thing is that there's people around you that have better skills than you, probably in your business, right? That
and it's no one's fault, and it's no one's fault.
Oh, 100%. But also, that's also a way of engaging your staff, Jay. We talked about this last time with Monty. Is hey, find a way. You aren't going to always be able to do it with wages, but maybe my marketing budget, whatever it was, I can take a little bit of that and give it to somebody who's working in my restaurant or in my business and say, hey, what do you think about doing a little bit on social for us? Yeah. And here's what we want to do. Let's talk about it. And then let them come up with a plan, because you're focused on running your business and food costs and rent and insurance and, you know, hiring more staff and all these things. That might take a little bit off your plate, but it also might get you, you know, some creativity that you don't have. And I think most people would be pleasantly surprised with what their staff could do.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It really,
it really is. It really is.
You know, you see stuff that, you know, 55-year-old moms do on social. Some of the cool stuff that they do.
I was going to say, have you seen the old lady at the headbanging at the concert?
No, I think I have actually. Yeah,
6.5 million views. You probably saw it, Darren.
Yeah, exactly. So,
do you know how many people probably have seen that and looked at that shirt and jacket she wears? And
yeah. So on the safety side and all those things that are going to go on in January, you know, if you're probably, you know, tightened up your staff a little bit, but this is also a good time to do training. This is a good time on doing internal education. And, you know, we sell food safety and respectful workplace and all those other, you know, courses that would be for a workplace. But how about training them on product? How about training them on your business? How about training them on, you know, origin and history of your business and talking about that with you?
Well, that you know what, I want to get into that because
so much story to be told there.
Well, let's get into that next, because I want to talk about this, because the National Restaurant News, the NRN, just put out an article. I think it was today. Let's see, was it today? They put out an article about expect restaurant consumers to get much more value conscious in 2024. Yeah, it was out today, right? So they predict that there's a flattish growth in restaurant space where bigger brands are expected to gain market share by increasing the value of what they offer.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a line in here I really like. It's said right here by Silverman, which I think wrote the article here. Brands ought to be brands ought to be prepared to talk about value and promotions in a way they haven't in the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And then quotations, we are confident that 2024 will be an environment of uncertainty. Companies that perform the best are those that plan with uncertainty in mind.
Mm-hmm.
Is that deep?
Yeah. Well, that's
what does that mean?
Right? It's hands down reality. So if probably all businesses need to think like that in some sense, you know, you're sort of hope for the best and plan for the worst, right? That's kind of like
hope for the best, plan for the worst.
Yeah, for sure, right?
I love that, dude. I love that.
But you're considering that, but it's also an opportunity sometimes to take risks, right? To take risks, to be different, to, you know, experiment with your menu maybe. But I'm for value. You know that. Like I think the winners are always the one offer it's not necessarily the best price, it's best value, and that's a combination of things, right? Price has to be good because people are strapped for money. But it's not necessarily being the cheapest. Value might be the best service with really good food, right?
Yes.
And a really good environment. And back to hey, you've invited me back. You've thanked me for coming. Your staff are on point as far as training, especially if it's a service business, not just counter service, but service, right? Where it's sit down service. So this is back to investing time and effort into training your staff to not just on menu, but on what good service is, right? Are they going back and they offering? We went to a breakfast place just before New Year's, and they do breakfast. The lady did not, and it wasn't busy. We were there for, I don't know, just maybe an hour and a half. One coffee, not even offered a coffee refill.
Did you see someone wrote it on the table in ketchup?
Yeah.
Was here for like how many hours?
Well, I'm not for that.
No, I don't do that. That's bad. But I'm just like,
but this goes back to,
training,
100%, right? So
training,
you don't want to inundate the customer with being there like over their shoulder every 10 seconds. But
no.
I think that's a training function, right? To say
100%.
Right? And the worst thing was the person I was there with, his coffee, the first one he got was cold. Oh, sorry, it wasn't cold.
It was an ice cold coffee.
It wasn't iced coffee. That's you like iced coffee. It was just sort of just barely warm, right? So it's like, okay, well, something's happening, right? They're having a little blip here. Something's going on. But then when we never got the refill, it was like, okay, well, it's not so busy. If it's busy, you understand. So I'm just for how do we train and retrain and continue training staff. And in smaller restaurants, it's hard, but it's that much more important. It's just that it is.
It is.
You might not get the second chance.
No, well, I don't think you do. I don't think today you have second chances. I think you have just too many choices. The marketing that's coming out through channels, and you know what? There's probably algorithms out there that hear you complaining that goes, all right, let's fire up the logo. No different than when I wake up and McDonald's tells me to go get breakfast in the morning out of nowhere, right? Like, I think there's things, but I want to share this with you because I want to go back to this planning thing. And Maeve Webster, one of my most incredible ladies that writes, she's the president of Menu Matters. I haven't talked to Maeve in a while, but she is incredible. And one of the things she wrote the other day, 3 days ago on LinkedIn, and it's this whole thing around loyalty programs and creating more personalized experiences, given the amount of preferences and behavior data that can be mined, loyalty programs across all segments. There's no reason why personalization or personalized hospitality isn't primarily the goal of these programs. And now she also put in here, talks about plans, right? And I didn't know that President Eisenhower actually said this, but plans are worthless, but planning is indispensable. And she wrote in here, President Eisenhower was absolutely right here. The last few years have proven that being tied to a plan can be the downfall of any brand. Encourage a culture that supports and encourages collaboration. Thank you. Here you go. I only do 1,000 podcasts. Anyways, given how volatile market conditions will certainly be over the next year, at the least, so it's talking about, we can plan all we can, but don't be tied to it, right? No,
you got to be able to pivot and move and adjust. And, especially in the restaurant business, when you get feedback, we do it. I believe in this hard. I believe in it a lot. We make little tweaks to our courses every week, almost sometimes daily, right? They're small, but as we get feedback, and if it's valid, we get in there right away and we make that change, right? You're still going to have your critics, right, that are pissed that you made that change. But if you get that feedback from enough people, that means, hey, you need to change it, right? Yeah. You're not, we shouldn't believe our own press clippings that we're that great all the time. We're not, right? We're not. No. We're not. We can make mistakes and we can do things wrong. So, and that's okay. And that's the imperfections, perfection in 2024. I guess maybe this is the whole thing, is that we used to say this
with the team that I led is that if you're not making mistakes, that means you're not trying something different. And because you never nail it perfectly all the time, but when you hear people not doing anything or they're not making any mistakes, they're probably taking no risks and no changing and trying. And a lot of companies out there, they really, embrace that culture, and they really embrace people trying to try things differently. And I think that's important. And I think we need to look at that. So maybe restaurants in 2024 always have to have a pilot project on.
Well, that's probably a good idea. That's probably should be something that's happening throughout the year, right? Like
yeah. Every month,
it should be ongoing, and that's a good way to grow your business, because that's how innovation happens, right? If you're not testing and doing things differently and or making mistakes, I guess, like you said,
yeah.
Then nothing changes. So
I've made a few mistakes on podcasts over the years, so I know what it means.
How about on these live ones, these LinkedIn live ones?
Yeah, I've done a few.
Oh, I thought we were perfect in some of these already.
No, trust me. Just see, over the years, over the last, I don't know how many shows we've done together, but we've had a few. I'll tell you not.
Oh, we don't know the name of one of our shows.
So
Well, sorry.
That one mixed up.
You don't know the name.
We know the name. We know the name.
I might get you one of those neon signs with that, so that
it's written all back here. I love it. It's funny because I'll tell you what not to do is host 40, 50 some shows in plus 40 weather on a tarmac in Edmonton. That was hot, right? There's different things, but that was
fun, right? Look,
that was fun.
I kind of just look. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. You know what? And everybody that came had a lot of fun, which was cool.
Oh,
That kind of what I got the most out of that was that everybody thought it was so cool. They were happy to tell their story, that's what I like hearing.
Yeah.
So, and
do you remember like the older people coming and just getting into it?
Yeah.
Like you said that it's funny because I want to talk about this because I always believe that every restaurant needs a podcast. I really believe that. Now, the thing on that is it was amazing that I remember you said that, and I remember now is how many people were so amazing just to talk.
Yeah.
Like it was just talking about their restaurant and there was so many stories and how and what they've done to get to what they do, or even from the lawyer that we interviewed, his story and what he did. The doctor, right?
The doctor of it, yeah.
Like he was insane.
He was doing the community garden. Yeah, it was cool.
Right. So when you think about all these different things that we learn by just sitting down and talking, and do you imagine you take that model now and you put it inside a restaurant and you say, okay, I just want you to talk with your guests, talk about your staff. I would have a booth in my restaurant. That is your podcast booth. And it's a booth, right? And have all your equipment set out.
I just patented
it. But you know what I'm saying? It's a booth. It's actually a podcast booth. You can get that one locked in. Okay. We can do that.
Give me a sec here.
Exactly. Just
I'm gonna go get that website. I'm gonna go get that.
I was actually sending you a domain today. It came up for sale. I'm like, whoa, never seen that before. But I think that's what you do is you I'd have a booth. I'd have everything set up and it'd be like sitting there and, people are chatting away or what's this? It's a podcast studio. We record podcasts here.
Yeah.
Right. And then Friday night you do it live where you got all that busyness and chaos and people are walking by and servers and maybe you pre-book some shows. Well, they're coming in. It's, what it is? It's the old.
Well, I think it's exactly what you've probably done, except you're recording it, right? It's really,
you could do it live though. You could do it live, tag in your people and say, come down, watch us, enjoy the show. And then you have it where maybe they can listen on their phones. You got those people downloading your, what are they doing over there? It's a podcast. You can download it. Let me help you download it. Server helps you download it.
Well, it's definitely different, right? A lot of people aren't doing it, but I think that the cool thing about it is the Greek restaurant we went to the other day, they did the little Opa dance, right? And
hey, that's cool stuff.
The owner and the two owners, and they get the crowd in there, and but everybody was filming it. Everybody, like I'm talking, I don't know, 50 people. I bet you there was 20 phones. And this is a tiny little place, but I think that's the power that a lot of restaurants aren't capturing back to. I'm with you. I think every restaurant needs a podcast. I don't know if that's what it is, but I think they need to engage and tell their story more than they are. And it could be a podcast, it could be a YouTube video, it could be, but I think it has to have an ongoing basis. And back to, it's lots of time. There's maybe not as much effort as you think, right? Because
it is. It doesn't take so you have
fancy, right? It has to just be real.
Okay, I'm going to tell you a secret here. Okay, ready to patent this too?
Yeah.
So you got a restaurant. Okay, restaurant's got a podcast. They got a booth. They're using a booth. You can even do this with like coffee shops, okay? Because you can have a table, coffee shops, a couple of mics on there. These things don't cost a huge amount. And then you say to your vendors, do you want a commercial on my podcast? They're like, good. Okay. And then they pay, and then you have a revenue stream coming in through your podcast or your restaurant.
That'd be cool.
Right? It's doable. It's very doable. Right? And you think some of these coffee shops coming in there want to have their brand exposed out there and people have it on. Nothing is better than a podcast is when someone downloads your podcast on their phone, because anytime that podcast is released, they get a notification on their phone. And I've seen it. I've seen mine come up on people's phones.
I think the cool thing is that it can become very big very quickly. I think people are probably just overwhelmed by the idea of doing it, and that it's going to be a lot of work. I think talk to some of your staff and see, hey, here's
probably a podcaster already on your staff.
For sure, exactly right. They've got some experience with doing a Facebook Live or something like that, right? So engage them, and it would be cool. It'd be cool for your restaurant, be cool for your staff, cool for your guests, right? It's a good way of getting the word out about what you're doing, right?
100%. I think it's a cool way to do it. It's saved forever up on their phones or on the streaming services that you offer.
Now I'm going to talk safety now.
Okay,
make sure the place is clean.
Yes, right? Exactly. Clean your mics.
Make sure everybody's doing proper practice. If you're going to take the phone into the kitchen, which I love to see personally, I think that's cool when I see stuff, when I see chefs in the restaurant, or there's a lot of stuff I've been seeing lately, probably because I clicked on some pizza video somewhere because I'm a pizza fanatic. But when I see them going in the kitchen and talking to the chef and what they're doing and how they're doing it, I think that's again back to the authenticity, but also just seeing so many diverse ways of doing things.
Yeah, right? 100%. I think cool. It's so cool to be able to do that, right? So, okay, so we're almost at an hour here.
Wow.
So every restaurant needs a podcast, need a marketing plan, safety plan, marketing plan, social media plan, fire disaster plan.
Offering value, right?
Value plan.
No, offering some sort of value, right? Or increasing your value proposition in how do I get, because people are tight, right? There's tight for money. So place in there.
It always happens, right? Yeah. And this, I think it's almost to a point where sometimes it's like this reality check we get from an outside source saying, are you really providing service? Because I saw recently at a conference I was at, 300 and some people didn't put their hand up when the speaker asked who's had exceptional service in the last couple of years. Not one hand put up, and these were F&B people. And I was like, whoa.
That's sad.
So that's sad. So we do have an opportunity to increase service, to get out there, to really get better at what we do, and to really plan your training. And I think training, there's so many apps out there today that are so cool on their training right now when it comes to the easiness of training, right? And cultural training. And someone told me yesterday, it was Friday, they said it also has to be about the vibe of the place.
Yeah.
You want a positive vibe. We want to go to places that's positive and it's got a lot of good vibe going on. Not someone's late for their shift and everyone's walking around going, oh, I got to take up the table.
I used to do training where I'd take my staff and I'd take them to a place that did good things.
Really? I used to do that. Yeah.
That kind of training is you can sit and you can enjoy whatever you're doing, but for me, when it was in bakery, I would take them to production bakeries. We were retail bakery, but I would take them to production bakeries because I was trying to say, well, here's the standards we need, like, CFIA inspected places. They've got this way higher standard. But when you take them to a place that has higher standards than yourself, or that does it really good, and you're aspiring to be that good, it pays to take your staff and to say, here, look, here's what good service is. Are we going to do that? Are we going to have the white gloves and the little scraper? Maybe not, but we could do this, this, and this, right? We should be doing this, this, and this. We're already going to the table. We're ready. Here's all the things we're doing. It takes, when we talked, remember Chef Andy, when we asked and even Chef Leanna, what's the difference between okay and great? And it wasn't a lot, right? It wasn't a lot of extra effort. It was consistency. So I think the training part is now's the time to do it. It's hard. It's going to be hard, period. It's going to be hard. But now you've got the time to do it right now.
100%. Okay, so let's get into, I just want this last question for you. Okay, so we got everything lined up for 2024. This is what we would do if we owned a restaurant. And I can ask you this question. It's totally off topic. Apple fritter or Boston cream?
Apple fritter.
Serious?
Yeah.
No way.
Good apple fritter, yeah.
No, this is Tim Hortons' 60th anniversary this year. They brought back some classics.
Yeah, I'm for apple fritter. I'm still for apple fritter. Because they've had is the Boston cream not a classic? Did they get rid of that?
They brought it back.
No, but it wasn't gone.
Well, it says the apple fritter unseats the Boston cream as the top donut.
There you go.
Tim Hortons.
Yeah, but I think Boston cream never left, did it?
I don't know if it did. Don't you say that?
I don't think it left. I'm for the apple fritter just because I like that little bit of what I don't necessarily like about the apple fritter is if it's got too much icing on it, because then that icing kind of
no. Have you ever had like a homemade apple fritter from? Well,
yeah.
You're a baker. Yeah, I was gonna say you're a baker. You know that. So
I did not an apprenticeship. I did a placement at Tim Hortons in North Bay.
Serious?
When they made donuts in their shops.
So when did they stop that?
Oh, probably 15 years ago, maybe 10 years.
Oh, it got to be longer than that, doesn't it?
Quite a long time ago. But they made, like, we used to make some awesome cinnamon buns there. They made these awesome cinnamon buns that were so gooey, and then they were hot, and that was like the big thing, right? You'd get this massive.
I remember that now.
Well, that was a lot of work, right? Because you were rolling them by hand, and you had to flip them, and
it must have been a waste. There must be some waste.
I bet you what happened is there were so many WCB claims from people getting burned from the hot sauce. They said no more liquid scalding sugar in our shops.
Oh my God! It's funny that the co-op in Swift Current, where I was raised, the co-op would have apple fritters, and they were warm, and you'd pull them apart, and they come out, and you'd have the bakery there, and you could smell it while you're baking, and then go get the white box. Remember the white box? Oh man! And they used to do the triangle ones. What are those?
Is doing scratch baked donuts, and they were buying frozen donuts, but now they're doing scratch bake, like them from scratch and frying them fresh every day. And you can't beat a right from the fryer. Well, Krispy Kreme, right? That was their claim to fame. Is that
they had the conveyor? They had the whole system there, and you could watch it.
You had hot donuts coming out all the time, right?
And they would hand you one. I remember going into the one in Calgary. They'd be like, "Hey, grab a hot one." No,
they're making a little bit of a comeback, but I'm
way bigger in the States, though, right?
Yeah,
bigger in the U.S. market than here.
Yeah.
So
I donut shops, and there's a cinnamon bun chain that's opening up called Cinnaholics. I don't know if you've seen that one. There's probably 3 or 4 here in California.
Yeah, there's a few here too. Yeah, they're actually from Edmonton.
Oh, cool.
I've actually had them on my show.
Nice.
So I do know that they're incredible. Well, the first time I had them on my show was during COVID, and I will remember them because she got dressed. The lady that was running the I can't remember if it was the owner. I think it was the owner. She came on the show, and this is just when we had lockdown, and all the restaurants were empty. And I was streaming with Taste of Edmonton. It was our first time Taste of Edmonton. And they came on, and she was sitting in there, and it was empty. And it was just heartbreaking to see. And they were talking about what they would have been showing and everything else. But yeah, they've had them on the show. They're incredible product, incredible. But there is more of these things coming out, and they're kind of this indulgence that we need during these bad times or uncertain times, as they said in the NRN article there. So I think we're going to see more and more of those things, indulgence.
Yeah.
But here's the thing is that you can capitalize on that. So I believe if you can stay under a $20 bill, in a sense, of providing, an item or two or three, let's say. So if you got a donut, a sandwich, and a coffee, and you're under that 20, but it's like $19 or $18, I think you're going to win.
Yeah.
I think you're going to win. It's Starbucks mentality. So Starbucks, in a sense, is taking, I think, a lot of lunch away from a lot of people, a lot of restaurants on lunchtime, because you can go there, get a higher end, let's say, unique, maybe not even higher end, but unique sandwich, provolone and pesto and this and that, and then pay another $7 for your coffee. It's almost the same price as your sandwich. And then you're under the $20 mark, but you're getting that value, and we can get into a million different things that Starbucks is doing from the psychology side. I love it. But you get under that 20, you're making money. And I think when you look at those places, donut places, coffee shops, I think are still going to be massive in 2024. I think beverages, hot beverages, cold beverages, if you don't have a beverage program right now planned out for your year, you need to look at mocktails, cold coffees, hot and cold, multiple things. People are paying $6-7 for a 50-cent cost product and not blinking an eye.
Yeah.
At these things. It's and we can thank those places like Starbucks
Yeah.
that is elevating the cost levels on those products out there. They're elevating you look at
the only my caution there would be, not that I'm in the coffee business, right? But if you're going to do it, make sure you do it well.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Don't just do the Me Too thing, right? Because you want to offer cold beverages and all these things.
No, you gotta do it unique and better.
You do it well, and back to Monty and what NRN is saying. See if you can offer value, right?
Yeah.
But if you can keep some items that are value on your menu, that gives me a reason to come back, right? So
100%. So apple fritter. Last question. Did you read my article about the dollar dine?
No.
It's the concept I wrote just the other day about we can talk about this a different show. Can you take the dollar store mindset concept and plug it into a restaurant?
Yes.
You agree?
Yes.
Okay, we'll talk about this. So we'll leave that one for the next show.
Might not be $1, but I think
so 1 to 2 to 3. Okay.
Yeah,
and
there's places in Thunder Bay that the guy, and these were different times, obviously, where they were doing they call them sliders there, but they're doing the little hamburgers. They used to be 50 cents or whatever, right? They're like $2 now, but you see, McDonald's and Burger King are bringing some of these items back there because they know people are strapped and they have to keep them coming. So,
so here's the thing:
push our menu prices up. I think that's that, and you have to do it on a lot of things, right? But I think you should also think about some items that can I keep some sub $20 items, like you just said, right?
I know. No, okay. So we're gonna get into this. Let's get into this next show.
Yeah,
is the dollar dine topic, because I think you can introduce a menu that's $1 to $2 to $3 items. That's it.
Yeah.
That includes your beverages. That includes your sandwiches, your meals, fast food format, and make money also at the advertising. So we got volume in advertising spend or like royalties or whatever it is off of it. I think if you play your game right in this space, you could actually drive volume. Like it's always, high volume, low cost items, and then use the marketing off of that high volume to sell advertising. And there's a place in Lethbridge that sells advertising for a ridiculous amount of money on their building to pay. And I've seen it in small towns where they'll spend $10,000 a month on putting a billboard on a wall because they have a prime location for that restaurant. And they have 3 of them. That's $30,000 of marketing money they're getting by putting it on the wall.
Cool.
So I want to explore this next time when we get together on our late night show and talk about that, because I think there is ways, maybe we'll have to get a scratch pad out, Dominic, and work out the math, because I think there's ways that people can do this. And I always love challenging the status quo, because I know what costs are, I know what things are, but I also know the volume. And then what I also think is that the dollar store has done some unique things, package size, products, their own brands.
Well, and sometimes they're willing to just have less marketing
and less quality stuff. The odd thing, like
to just have volume, right? So there's a customer there for it. But famously, Costco, the $1.50 hot dog and pop, and they say
it's a great hot dog, by the way.
They're still making a little bit of money. They're not making a lot, but they are still making a little bit of money, right? So in the U.S., they took the hot dog production in-house so that they could save that little bit of money, right? So they're doing that with chickens down there. So they're not necessarily accepting what the vendors are giving to them. And if there's a way of them doing it better, I think they'll explore it. I think that applies to restaurants. You're not going to, not every restaurant's going to go open a hot dog factory. But, 25 or 30 years ago, Costco didn't make their own hot dogs. They bought them from a vendor. Right?
But I think there's opportunity to look at that. We'll address that next show, next late night. But thanks again, Dominic, for tonight's show. This is our 2024. It's not 2021. Please, we've been through that.
You said 2014 earlier, just so you know.
2014
2014 earlier once. And I was like, okay, you're only off by 10 years, so it's not that bad.
It's way too much coffee, Dominic. I've been drinking have you had one? I'm even drinking a relaxed drink.
Oh, wow.
And it's not even working. It's not offsetting the pitcher of coffee or two I've drank today, but this has been great. Thanks again for a lot of fun. We got more topics, more things that we're going to address. We have some guests coming up as well. I know that Nate, this gentleman, Nate, that I met on LinkedIn, is going to join us, I think tomorrow maybe. But we're going to come back Monday to Friday, late night, talking about different things. Please send in different topics and different things that you want us to talk about or to address or to really see what's coming out in the industry. Also check out SafeCheck1.com. I almost got that mixed up. Yeah. And then listen to our podcast, Dominic, and the title is?
It's going to be, the new title is going to be the SafeCheck Food and Everything Else Safety Podcast. We're going to put SafeCheck in there because that's our plan. I don't know how we missed that, but yeah, we make mistakes, right?
We got excited. Yeah,
anyways, but we just launched it on a whim, right? So that's kind of cool.
But it's
we got a cool guest coming on tomorrow. We're going to talk about tech in the kitchen.
That's good,
Mark. Yeah, because
that's really good.
They've got that.
Well, you need it.
Labor savings, back to today's topic on what you would do in 2024. Incorporate tech, man. If you can afford to do it, you got to go back and look.
You got to. I would give up something to have a little bit.
Yeah, you have to find every efficiency you can, because the city isn't going to cut our taxes as much as they should. But we need to vote those buggers out too.
Not in Calgary.
As
soon as you get political, you have to be quiet.
No, I'm not being quiet. Everyone that voted for the tax increase, I want them out of office. Same for Edmonton. If they voted for any sort of tax increase when people are hurting and businesses are hurting so badly, they're going to kill so many businesses by raising everybody's taxes. They got to go the other way. I'm for the municipalities that lower taxes. Go and look at those guys and see what they're doing. We don't need some stupid blue ring of art
Here's my philosophy on this, and I usually don't talk politics, but I'm going to do this for you.
You better start.
Here's exactly no. Here, I'm going to share this with you. This is my philosophy on this. Simple-minded folks typically come up with simple, non-solution based actions. Right? Is simple-minded. So that means that the ones that are creative and innovative come up with better solutions and ideas. The ones that we typically are having in these spaces in cities, halls, or different or government, when you look at the programs that they introduced, they're pretty basic, and they're typically the easy way of doing it in a way, right? So here's the philosophy that Simon Sinek says. There was a company out there that had an opportunity. They needed to lay off people. Instead of laying off people, they went to their whole staff and said, what can we do so not all of us suffer, but each of us suffer a little instead of someone suffers a lot? And they came up with strategies that no one had to be laid off. People were trading different times off and trying different ways. So, like they said, little people suffered a little instead of someone suffering a lot. And what they did is they actually came up with better ideas and actually increased profits, and their business did better. That takes creativity. That takes innovation. When you look at these ways that people can just say, you know what, crank up the tax because we're suffering here. It's simple math. I think you can think differently.
I'm with you 100%. I think, cities, governments everywhere.
That's easy to do.
Well, they have a spending problem. It's always a spending problem. It's not an income problem. And the easy thing is to go to, like I told you about the hotels, a 20+% property tax increase.
Easy.
What hotel can absorb that? Never mind food service, but they all have food service operations in them, right? So something's going to suffer in there. And that's the sad part. Like, we've got to get all these extra creative ways and think of all these other things. And sometimes the government's got it stacked so hard against the business. It's like, are they intentionally trying to put these people out of business? Because that's what sure seems like. And that's bad for everything. It's bad for the economy overall, right?
It is. Well, so I'm going to leave you with this because we're going to wrap up here, but it's like the Olympics. Okay, here's my take on the Olympics. It's easy to spend $20-40 billion on getting the Olympics. But it'd be very creative and innovative if someone said, okay, like Calgary has the Olympics, a lot of those old facilities. Let's recycle them and reuse them. And let's actually create an Olympics that actually is the most inexpensive Olympics ever. And create a demand around that. Then show the world that we don't need to spend money to gather people together to celebrate these amazing athletes and award them. That is more harder than spending $60-40 billion. And that would save a lot of different infrastructure and everything else and all this money. To actually celebrate the people that actually will reduce the cost opposed to increasing the cost. We go backwards. That's the way I see things all the time. Is that why when the Olympics were, going to Calgary, or they had the opportunity to get them back, I'm like, perfect. Let's reuse a lot of these facilities. Let's look at actually being the place that actually has the lowest cost of Olympics ever. That is more crafty and innovative, right? Than saying, we'll spend X $60 billion. It's easy to spend. It's easy to raise taxes, but going the other way takes innovation and people with, stuff going up upstairs. It's maybe different. There's my take, Dominic.
Thanks,
Get me started. Get me started already. Anyways, we'll see everyone tomorrow night. Okay, here we go.
Bye, Jay. Bye, everyone.